Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us on the Mile High Podcast, and I want to encourage you to please subscribe. You can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher, as well as on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. We bring these podcasts to keep the Mile High movement more than a weekend, but something that happens all year to fuel your chiropractic enthusiasm and knowledge. Also, I do want you to, if you have not already, mark the calendar for August 17th to 20th, 2017 for the Mile High Chiropractic Movement Weekend. This will be our 5th year, and it's going to be stellar as always, and we are raising the bar, raising the elevator. Today's guest is actually one of my favorite chiropractors from the Mile High territory, who has now shifted his altitude to sea level at Sherman College, but not his attitude and at all, which is Dr. Tate Gentile, who practiced in Fort Collins, Colorado, and his wife was inspired to go back to school to be a chiropractor, and he obviously went with her and is now teaching in college. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Tate Gentile.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is really an honor to be on, and I do get to speak to my family in the Mile High area from time to time, but good to be speaking with you.
Yeah, it's going to be great to have you. I know everybody in the area is going to love seeing this. So first of all, let's start off with people getting to know you a little bit, your journey into chiropractic and your journey to Sherman College.
Okay. It's, I guess, a little bit of a story, but I graduated I grew up in Colorado. I grew up a little north of Colorado Springs, so Colorado native. And I graduated from Parker College in 2007 and had a wonderful experience there. And graduated and came out and decided that I was going to buy a practice. I guess I'll share a little bit about that whole process because I think it was interesting. Coming out of school, I recognized I'm a chiropractor now. I'm ready to save the world. I want to touch people, and here I am. People are just going to come see me. So I bought a practice in which I didn't fully know what I was getting myself into, nor had done the research on the practice that I was buying, and turned out to be a little bit different than what I thought it was. It was primarily a insurance Medicare-based activator pain practice, and soon, within a few months, I found myself really burning out with that. We could talk about that a little bit more, but was able to transition my practice into something that I really, really wanted. So that's kind of how I got started. As far as the transition for me, one of the things that I like to talk to students about at Sherman is this idea of not letting your practice just happen to you, but going out and creating that. And I think I had to learn that the hard way. Stepping into activator Medicare with practice was not my target market per se. So
right,
that's how I got started.
And then how did you end up at Sherman?
Yeah, so I guess I would have to credit a huge piece of that to Mile High, your seminar. I brought my wife to, I forget if it was Mile High 2 or 3, but we were there, and she was kind of searching for some more in her, some more for her life, and had to on one of the tables. He was doing his thing, and she had a really transformational experience. Stepped up from the table, turned around to me, and was like, "I need to be a chiropractor." And so at that point, I was like, whoa, pump the brakes a little bit here. But we made the decision that we could go, change our community and the world with two of us a lot better than we could with just myself. So we transitioned down to Sherman, and that's where we are right now.
That's awesome. And he's had that effect on a lot of people going to chiropractic school.
I've heard lots of stories, and I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. So now being at Sherman, going from practice to now giving your gifts that you learned in school and in practice to an academic setting is, to me, a very incredible thing to step up to do, even if it's a short time period while your wife's in school, because it's incredible to give back, and we need that in chiropractic. The people in schools need to have great instructors like yourself. So what are some highlights of that experience of working with students?
Yeah, it has been kind of challenging at times, but extremely rewarding. My first year at school, what I was finding was I didn't know how to communicate necessarily what I did, whether it was how to make an adjustment or how to formulate words and sentences to communicate with people. But the transition from practice into the academic world it's really neat, because the students they're little sponges, and they will really take a lot of what you have to say. And now that I've been able to start to formulate the words and explain the little nuances of an adjustment and communication, that's been kind of the biggest challenge for me there. But I think I'm over that gap now, and starting to see that some of the rewards that the students now graduating are finding.
Excellent. So, and then let's just help people clarify. What do you teach at Sherman currently?
Yep. I spend a little bit of time in the health center, so overseeing adjustments and helping students there. But I'm teaching a class in patient education, where we'll go through consultations, we'll go through report of findings, we'll work through health talks, and then I try and jam pack that class with as many other real life things, overcoming objections, and how to relate anything to chiropractic. We talk a little bit about money in there as well, so I think all important things in practice. I also teach a pattern analysis class where we use Titron thermography, and an elective class that I started up called Neurofunctional Assessments, where we use the Insight subluxation station to show logical indicators and interpretation of the effects that we're having as chiropractors.
Wow, that's excellent. And with that, I like the title Neurofunctional. That's awesome. And I also really think it's great to let's just pause on this a second, that there's a chiropractic school where you're discussing initial visits, reports of findings, pattern analysis. A lot of people don't get that in chiropractic school.
Yeah, coming from a background at Parker, and I don't want to say anything bad about Parker. I had a wonderful experience there, but I came out with a lot of questions and a lot of things that didn't line up with my philosophy that I was having, and I kind of had to discover some of these things for myself that were more congruent with what I was trying to do in practice. I wanted to see kids and pregnant moms in practice, but why would you need to see a kid or a pregnant mom if they're not having low back pain of some sort? And so I think changing the script and starting to talk about neurology and outcomes and this expression of the mental impulse, I think is a really amazing way at Sherman that we can set people on the right track to just start hitting the ground in practice and getting away from a pain-based practice that's highly stressful and unstable.
And that is part of why it's the center of the chiropractic universe. So now, let's talk about that, because we were saying off camera here a little bit as we were getting ready something very exciting about the use of thermal readings in the clinic that I want anybody who hears this podcast to hear, because this is phenomenal.
Yeah, so recently we redid the student clinic where we have thermography, Titron thermography up there, and now we're revamping the outpatient clinic to where we've just ordered brand new Titrons to be outfitted in every single room, and it's going to be mandatory for the students to do a thermal scan and get a reading and start to pattern these people coming in from the community in knowing when they need to be adjusted. I think that's one thing as chiropractors, and maybe a philosophical thing that I struggled with for a long time, this idea that our body is amazing and adaptive, but every time they come in we have to put a force or we have to do something to them. So I think the Titron and thermography will help us tell a little bit more of a neurological indicator on when to adjust and shed some light on that.
And I would venture to say that the number of chiropractic institutions in the U.S. that are including that in the curriculum as well as in the clinic are very small.
Absolutely, yeah.
Unfortunately. So
yeah.
It's a great thing for people that go to Sherman to have that, because I graduated from Sherman, and when I was there, we had to, it was at that time Tom Gilardi's instrument, the Accolade, and we had to do 3 readings and have pattern before you could thrust. It was just part of the analysis package that you use. You had to establish pattern. And I think that's so important for people to have certainty in what it is they're delivering. And it's an essential thing to spinal analysis, not only with instrumentation, but other areas. Just pattern, the concept of pattern and when, and dynamic versus static is a central concept. And people miss that. They're missing a real part of working with the nervous system. And that's part of what we want to talk about, is changing the conversation from pain to neurology with technology. So how do you want to see students and people in the field do that more?
Yeah. I spoke at IRAPS a couple of weeks back on an idea that I had as far as, if the vertebral subluxation is the central area of interest in chiropractic, what is our intent with that? When we make an adjustment, what is our intent? Is it to decrease pain? Is it to, increase heart rate? Is it to, what is our intent? Is it just to make someone feel better? Or, and I had this idea that, if we can have the intention to regulate the body's ability to adapt, and whatever that means, if their heart rate needs to go up or come down, we're regulating their system's ability to adapt. But with that, we need to be congruent in being able to measure that somehow, okay? This isn't just using a pain scale, but using things like heart rate variability, thermography, surface electromyography, pulse rate, things like that we can start to measure this neurophysiological effect that we're having on people. And it's, very congruent with chiropractic and making changes in people's lives.
Look, in today's world, right, there's the level of science we have in so many fields is a phenomenal. The level of technology there is for us as chiropractors to constantly upgrade our objective findings and tools based on the principles of what it is that we do is central. I remember years ago something that I don't remember if Chris Kent or Patrick Gentempo said, but one of them had said, it was high touch and high tech is what chiropractic should be. High touch and high tech, and I agree with that. You know, we have to embrace. Look how much people are looking around technology and like these devices, right? So
Right.
if we can create that, there's a technical thing that we're assessing is huge, and those resources are very available. They're not all that costly, and it's a vital investment to increase the value of the care that you're delivering to people. And actually, I find that with instrumentation and technology, you become a better chiropractor because you start actually, you can check yourself. You can see if you're doing a good job. I've had plenty of times in my 20 years of practice where I said, wow, the person's not clearing, not changing, and I have to change my approach.
Right.
And that's how you move towards mastery. Otherwise, you're not having any kind of outside indicator to check against your own senses.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And, I heard someone once say that one of the things that is plaguing chiropractors is that we don't know if we are delivering something that we are selling, and this will, using technology, instrumentation, it's not just to have some flashy thing in your office, it's to have these markers to see, what sort of change that we're making, and also to relay that to the people coming into our office.
Yeah, nothing frustrates me more than someone saying that, oh yeah, they have for example, an Insight Millennium or something in their office, and they just use it for fairs, festivals, and screenings, and that sits on a shelf. And I'm just like, you know, you're completely missing the gift here of you becoming a better chiropractor, and
Right.
whatever technology it is that you're using,
Yeah.
So, well, it's really good that you're helping people do that. And tell me some highlight for people that are listening that maybe are practicing, practitioners, because we have a lot of those, or that download this or listen to it on iTunes. Something from the neurofunctional assessment course that you think is of value for people.
Yeah. So the course that we run is not only do we teach like how to efficiently use the technology, which in your office, to do a heart rate variability scan, to do SEMG and thermography takes less than 10 minutes. So I think that's awesome. But also just the communication you can have with practice members around that, start to shift that conversation from, my neck hurts here to, well, look at how awesome your nervous system is functioning since we've started care. And I understand that you're still having some symptoms, but can you see that your body's adapting better? I think that communication, bridging the gap in that communication is really awesome.
Right. And people understand that, it's about function.
Yeah.
And adaptability in other areas. So with that, also another thing is, you talked about, have you seen, since being in practice to now being in academic setting, because when you're in practice, you're kind of, you got your head down into doing what has to make that business profitable, as you should be, and sometimes you can completely miss what's going on in the profession. I'm definitely guilty of that. I did that for a very long time, and totally missed some of the things that were going on. You're kind of flying under the radar in chiropractic. What do you see on the other side of that now, in terms of how people need to maybe be involved in other things in chiropractic besides their office?
Yeah, I think this was one of the wake-up calls for me. It even hit me harder at hearing Dr. Matthew McCoy's seat. And I'm guilty of it. When I was in practice, I just flew under the radar. I went to the office, I did my thing, I tried to help as many people as possible, but wasn't involved in my state board at all. I wasn't involved in supporting any schools that were congruent with my philosophy. I went to seminars, but some of those seminars would, doing things that I wasn't really okay with. And so I think, for me now, being at an institution where, the school relies on outside sources of funds and to ultimately breed a chiropractor that does chiropractic, I think it's important to, put our money where our mouth is and go to the IRAPS seminars, go to Mile High, be involved with IFCO, have your malpractice carrier congruent with your philosophies, and go to those seminars that are spreading chiropractic rather than the latest supplement or gel to rub on you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've said Frank Hahn, the genius behind IFCO TV, sent me a message. He calls it my follow the money trail talk. That you have to watch where the money goes, and so many things. I even found out like there was leases on equipment in my office that were fueling things that were not good. That I didn't realize that that's what they were going through. So even things like that are hugely impactful, let alone choosing what you go to and what that is routing finances towards. And the biggest one of all is where you send people for schools. You got to realize when you send someone to a school and you just do it, say, on location, right? Because it's a place that's convenient for you. You may have just funded, $250,000 to an institution that's destroying chiropractic.
Exactly.
As we know it. So I'm not going to name institution. I'm just saying that, you got to be conscious. We talk about people being conscious of their health, their bodies, their choices. We need to do that ourselves relative to the future of chiropractic. And there's been a lot of lack of consciousness. So I'm glad some more people are waking up to that.
Yeah, and with that, I have a couple of things to say there. Is first of all, I appreciate what you're doing at Mile High. I haven't been to all of them, and I'm planning on getting back to this Mile High 5 in August. Is it?
Yep.
Everything that you put into that and the vendors are totally congruent with your message, and I really appreciate that. And just what you're doing in Colorado to make a change, because my nephew lives there, and I want him to be growing up with people and little kids around him that are under chiropractic care, but principled chiropractic care. And so I appreciate that. And the other thing, at Sherman too, is I can guarantee you at Sherman that we are teaching people how to adjust. They know the philosophy. It's not the flashiest school ever, but we deliver the goods, and people come out and they're ready to roll into practice and be extremely successful.
Well, and I thank you for saying that. And there's a lot of time, effort, and energy that goes on many levels for that, between obviously the administration, the faculty, the board, the donors, and that's all needed on every level. So whatever way, I've kind of been saying more things to chiropractors of like, just look at what's going on in your backyard. And a lot of times people don't even realize what's conscious going on in their own state or their own county, their district, and do something to contribute in your backyard is also on a national level, whether it be a school, where you send students, where you refer people, where you might donate, or national organizations or international organizations, and just being conscious of that is a huge thing. Your journey in practice, is there more that you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I touched on it just a little bit, but going into a practice and maybe buying a practice or getting started right off the bat in practice, I think it's important to, like I said, create your practice. Don't let it happen to you. So what I mean by that is the people that you love to work with, you need to really identify who that is and start to create this idea of customer intimacy, to where where your marketing strategies and your communication is going towards, rather than just opening the doors and seeing what happens. I think that we can have a bigger impact when we enjoy practice and thrive in working with the people that we love to work with. lots of people out there, and you're not going to, save every single one of them. So why don't we start by focusing on our target market, whatever that is, whether it's if you love to see old people, if you love to work with PI cases, babies, athletes, whatever it is, really sit down and hone that idea of you can really create a practice around the people that you love. And I think that's where right off the bat I struggled in practice, because I went in blindly, like, I'm a chiropractor, I'm ready to save the world, and let's do this. And after sitting down and taking a hard look and putting some ideas on paper, I put a transition into practice to where I wanted to eliminate insurance. I wanted to stop doing orthopedic tests on people to try and identify where they're subluxated, because an orthopedic test isn't going to tell you where they're subluxated. And I wanted to start putting technology into my office that was congruent with the message that I was putting out into my community. And by the time that we moved down here and I sold the practice, it was just so much fun to go to the office every single day and hang out with the pregnant moms and the babies and the families, because for me, that's what I love. Full families, working with full families.
Bam! And then that is being shared at a chiropractic institution is phenomenal, right? That you're just by being there and being you and having that, I know you're affecting students in the future. So thank you for that. And I love your quote here. Look, either you're going to step forward into growth or you're going to step back into safety. That's Abraham Maslow. That's awesome. And that's healing also, right? Stepping back into safety, just going back to silencing your body from whatever it is you're experiencing, versus there's some growth to gain and some forward motion to make in terms of maximizing your function and your well-being. So, hey, how is it seeing Chris Kent walk around campus?
it's I have to slap myself every day. I pretty much get to have lunch with him every day. I get to ask him questions, and it's awesome. It's an honor to be able to work alongside of him and just glean any knowledge off of him. I mean, he's an encyclopedia and historian of chiropractic and one of the smartest people I know. And it's really cool. I'm so glad that he is at Sherman, and it's really cool.
Well, I really appreciate you being part of our Mile High community, being part of it, and then being you and your bride being inspired to to participate on bigger levels. Her just becoming a chiropractor is a bigger level, right? And then you serving at Sherman. We look forward to seeing you at Mile High this coming year. And any other, if you were to say a favorite resource for people to look into after listening to this, whether it be a book or instrumentation or video or something, what would it be?
That's a great question. I would definitely recommend diving back into some of the green books. Starting with Stevenson's text, I think is important. It's not an easy read, but start spending 10 minutes a day just chewing on some of that and marinating in some of those ideas. I think that's a great resource. I've had a lot of opportunity to read while I'm at school here, and I'm just soaking up as much as I can, but I always go back to the green books. I think they're super important. And then, go to subluxation.com and check out, the Insight subluxation station. I feel like I talk about that a lot. And I can't imagine practicing without some sort of technology like that.
Excellent. Excellent. As I said when we were off camera, I do a class on that. If people want to know more about it, they can go to advancedspinalscan.com, www.advancedspinalscan.com. But I'm going to give you access to that because I want you to have that information. It will probably impact your knowledge in terms of a tonal model of interpretation that will impact students. So I'm going to make sure you get that. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being part of Sherman College. And thank you for being part of the Mile High community. For everybody that's listening, we'll put in the notes more information about instrumentation, about Stevenson's, about some of these resources, so people can learn more about Titron, subluxation station, so people know where they can get more information on this if they've maybe listened to this, they've never heard about any of that, so that they can help move their conversation in their office from pain, to neurology with technology. And I think that's what I'm going to title this episode. This is a good one. I love that. So, go and subscribe to us on iTunes. Okay, you can find Mile High Chiro podcast on iTunes. Subscribe. Please share feedback of the episode and of the podcast in general. And we look forward to seeing you at Mile High, August 17th to 20th, www.milehighchiro.org. This will be our fifth, I can't even believe it, fifth program, and it just keeps getting better. Thank you, Dr. Gentile, for all you do. Say hello to your bride for me, and I will say hello to your relatives up in Fort Collins. They're in Fort Collins, right? Yeah.
Collins, yeah.
I'll say hello to them too. So maybe we'll have to have you fly out for a philosophy night and teach at one of the philosophy nights that we're doing monthly.
Let's do it.
That
I'm ready.
would be great. So thank you for being part of the podcast. And over and out, everybody. Enjoy. And if you like this episode, please share it with others. Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.